7 tips for shy swingers. Hi, I'm Bella.
I'm Jace.
And welcome back to the Foreplay channel.
Make sure you leave this video a like, comment down below if you guys have any questions about this video once it's done or anything you want to see what's in the future. So drop those down below and then make sure to subscribe so you never miss when we post a video. First thing first, remember that there's a ton of shy people and it is totally okay to be shy. If you don't want to be outgoing and you don't want to go up and make approaches to people, you're still welcome to the lifestyle. You're still gonna have so much fun. But these are just 7 tips that are gonna help if you are shy and you're wanting to break out of your shell. The first tip is one of my favorite tips that I've ever learned for growing in this aspect. The tip is to basically go up and say something to the first person you see. Now this example works in a swingers club, but you could also do this anywhere else in the vanilla world. But basically when you walk into a club, let's say you see a person, there they are, go say, hey, I like your shoes, I like your shirt. Just something where you have to break the ice. Because what tends to happen is we go and we'll sit down, we'll get comfortable, and then the longer we wait, the more difficult it gets. And we can kind of put this pressure on ourselves and it builds, and we're like, okay, well, you know what, let's have one drink, then I'll say hello. Let's wait 5 minutes, we'll say hello. Let's go dance to one song, then we'll say hello. And the more you do that, the more pressure it puts on yourself, and then you have this whole obstacle. And the first time is always the hardest. So that's why we say whoever you see first, say something, it breaks the ice, and that gets the night started.
Our second tip is to approach people together. So don't put it on one person to go up and make that first initial contact. Make sure you guys are both going up together. One person doesn't need to be like, hi, I'm Bella, this is my husband.
Jace.
Or vice versa, but don't put the pressure on just one person to go up and make that connection. Having your partner there is also going to be like a security blanket for you, and so you guys know that you guys are already comfortable together, and so both going up together and making that initial connection together is going to be a lot less scary. Our next tip is to have a go-to line, and so while this might sound kind of obvious or kind of weird to have kind of tucked in your back pocket, we actually think that it really helps, and we tend to say the same 4 to 5 opening conversation starters every time that we meet new people. If you're already feeling stressed, having to think of what to start to talk about can add more pressure onto you, and so just having these easy open conversation starters is really going to help. When we're at a lifestyle club or lifestyle situation or event, our typical go-to thing is we'll go up to a couple and say, oh, I don't think we've met before, I'm Bella.
I'm Jace.
And then you kind of start with a vanilla conversation. That's our initial introduction, and then a few of our go-to lines are, is it your first time at the club? Do you guys come here often? Are you local to the area? Questions like these are just very general and generic and vanilla, and it's not threatening or anything at all.
We've noticed after these opening lines are kind of said, the conversation tends to flow a little bit easier, and then conversation just moves because maybe people say, hey, I'm from here, and then you find little talking points to talk about. So having that first one just out of the way makes you not have to think about the pressure of everything that's going on, and it just makes it a little bit easier.
Another thing you can do is compliment their clothes or ask where they got something. That tends to also open up the conversation pretty easily as well.
Number 4 is a mindset change, and I think this is a huge one. I read this book a long time ago, and it was called Ichigo Ichi. I'll have it linked down below if you guys want to read it. Basically, it's a Japanese principle that every moment in your life only happens one time. And that could be anything. If me and Bella wake up next to each other every single day, we have the same conversation, it's still gonna be slightly different. So every moment is truly special. And that's, if you have an amazing moment or a horrible moment, it only happens one time in your life. And that perception kind of changed how I felt about approaching people, because I saw it as, if I wanna go up and say hello, but I'm nervous, this is my only moment to do it. Because even if I go up and talk to someone an hour later, it's gonna be different. The conversation's gonna be different, and it'll never be the same twice. So you really only get one opportunity at every single thing in life. So having that mindset flip and be like, this is my only chance to ever do this ever, being that this is the only time this will ever happen in this specific way, it just made it feel easier to me, because I feel like, well, this is my only chance at this moment, and I like to live in that moment. And so that really helps. So I said, if you guys are having trouble with that mindset, reading that book is so helpful. So I said, we'll definitely have a link down below.
Another thing with that is you might not ever see that couple again, or maybe they're going to make a connection with somebody else, and then you don't want to be intrusive. And so then again, it's more of that, hey, let me do this right now in this moment, because I don't know if I'm going to have that chance. Our next step is to read up up on communication books and just learn in general communication tips, kind of like what you're learning here. But in addition to these ones, you can watch on YouTube, maybe watch some TED Talks about communication. Jace has a lot of book recommendations that we will list down below for you to learn about communication and how to be a better communicator in general. This can be just in the general world and together with your own partner. Just like any other skill in life, communication is also a skill, and so you can always learn how to do it better and learn tips on how to make it easier.
One of my favorite books is called Getting to Yes. And this book is more about negotiating. Both of these books are actually more about negotiating that I'm going to mention right now, but both of them have a lot of principles that are about talking and understanding how to listen, how to communicate, and it's the whole process of that. So Getting to Yes is a really amazing book. The other book is called Never Split the Difference, and that book was, I think he was an FBI or CIA interrogator, and so he had to learn how to talk to so many different people and listen to people's demands and learn how to work through all of that. And so the mentality that this person had is something completely different. So being able to read about how you're able to communicate in different ways with different people is extremely helpful. So those are a couple of my favorite books. You can always continue to learn, and you can always learn how to be a better communicator, and that journey really never ends.
Our next tip is to get to the club or get to an event early. That way you and your partner can acclimate yourselves to the area and kind of set your space that's like a safe space for you guys to go to as well.
That way, whenever you get there a little bit early, you can kind of get familiar with your surroundings, and that takes some of the pressure off, because whenever you're already nervous in a new place and you're like, I gotta approach someone, not knowing where you are is gonna make you feel more uncomfortable. So getting there a little bit early, it's also a little bit less busy, so it might be a little bit easier to hear. If you want to approach somebody early in the night, it's usually a little bit easier because people aren't quite off in groups as much yet because everyone's still kind of walking around. So getting there a little bit early just overall helps with you feeling more comfortable in the situation, and also makes it a little bit easier to approach people just because of the loudness and maybe not being quite as crowded. This last tip might sound kind of obvious, but it's to keep practicing. And there's a billion ways to practice, but you have to remember that the more you work on this skill, the more you're going to develop it. And some people are more naturally geared to this, and some people it's gonna be a little bit more difficult for. And that's totally normal, but if you keep working at it, you will get better. This might sound kind of like a silly little tip, but one thing you could even try is to talk to somebody that you're close to, that you're very comfortable with, like your partner, and you could work on small talk things that maybe aren't things you would normally talk about. So you could say, hey, let's choose the topic of bugs or of animals or something stupid, whatever it is, and just have to go on that topic. And having that little conversation with someone that you're very comfortable with, you don't feel as nervous because you don't feel like they're gonna judge you if you say something wrong. And that way you can kind of hone those skills in and actually practice what you've been reading and what you've been learning. Maybe once you feel a bit more comfortable with those small talk with your partner, something else you can try is just in little day-to-day situations. So let's say you're at the cash register and there's a person, say just a little bit something extra. It's a little bit of small talk, and those situations are very quick, but they'll let you keep practicing, so you can practice it, with your cashier. When you're in line and when you've been shopping, you could talk to your mail person, your neighbor, whoever it is. Just having those little small conversations can be really, really good for practice before you get into a lifestyle situation, which maybe you already feel a little bit more nervous about in general. So I think that will really, really help. Remember, the more you practice, the easier it's gonna get. And even for us, it's still not always the easiest to go say hello. Sometimes we still get nervous after 8 years, but it's so much better. And the more you do it, the easier it's gonna get. So just keep practicing, and I promise it'll get way better, and your shyness will get less and less with time.
Another thing is to not overthink. Get out of your head and don't take things personally, because that was what was holding us back. We were nervous to go up and say hi because we were like, well, what if they don't like us? What if we seem stupid? So get those things out of your head, because whenever you do overthink is whenever that's going to increase that social anxiety, and that's going to hold you back. So just be yourselves, be open. And the thing is, if somebody is going to be snobby to you when all you're doing is introducing yourselves and starting small vanilla talk, then those are the people that you're not going to want to be around anyway. This kind of more goes for the ladies, but definitely making conversation and making friends in the restroom, I feel like, is also like a really good tip. Just saying like, oh my gosh, you're so pretty, even just like whenever you're washing your hands in the mirror. I feel like I always look over, I'm like, oh my god, you're so gorgeous, like I love your outfit, where'd you get it? Stuff like that. And then you make that friendship there, or that initial contact, and then both of you guys go out and introduce your partners together.
And a lot of time men are standing outside the bathroom, and you'll be waiting for a while. So you can talk to those people around you too, and it's kind of like the same thing as in the bathroom for women is the outside of the bathroom for men.
And that brings us to the end of today's video. Hopefully these tips will help you if you are shy or if you're just having trouble communicating and making those first initial introductions in general. Make sure to leave this video a like. It's free to you and it helps us out a ton. And also make sure to subscribe so you never miss whenever we post a new video, and leave a comment on any other tips that you may have or any questions that you have for us, and we will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.